And welcome back to PSA TV. This is Eye on Labor. I am your host, Christy Callising. Joining me on the line right now, I've got the president of the Single Fathers Association of Trinidad and Tobago, Mr. Rhondall Fields. Good morning to you, Mr. Fields.
Morning, Christy. Thanks for having me.
How are you this morning?
I'm fine.
All right. So, briefly, just tell me your thoughts on this year's budget presentation done by the Minister of Finance.
Yes. Well, from the single father's perspective, I paid close attention and tried to look at the budget from the perspective, not the one surrounded around just the GDP and surrounded the revenue and stuff like that. Those things are critical and important, yes. But I tried to look at it from the perspective of the family, the household, single parent, just parents on the whole. And I some things that stuck out to me. I saw mention of education.
Yes.
When he spoke about some of the schools, and this is something Single Fathers Association had highlighted, a number of the early childhood center schools and primary schools were closed in the areas that we worked in. And I heard he said about 27 of them should be open soon. So we were glad to get that. We also look at the perspective with housing, where we know we've been trying to make applications for a number of single father-led homes as well. And the challenge is sometimes really that they can't qualify. They don't have the funds to qualify. So I looked at the perspective where I see they're now acquiring some houses that cost at $300,000 and also some guaranteed secured loans, so to speak, at $300,000. So that sounds like something, a good suggestion going forward. However, when coming to the point of gender, and the minister was very, very clear when he made that statement that he is going now to deal with gender issues, we once again forgot that males are included in the definition of gender. He further went on to speak on some proposals that they have, not proposals, but things that they're going to have in motion, which is one, they're going to set up daycare services, public daycare services for single mothers or female-headed houses, as he said, for children from 3 years and lower. And they were going to develop through the HTC and private sector, building some additional shelters for singles, for women. Again, no, we have no problem with assistance being given to women. We support it, with assistance being given to single mothers also. However, we have once again forgotten that minority of single father-led homes that are grossly affected by the issues just as the single mother-led homes are affected. We did this years ago when it came to public assistance, when men who did qualify with the means test to get public assistance were denied because culturally they could not be granted because they were male. This was the definition by Ministry of Social Development. So to hear the minister make a pronouncement that once again excluded these children was very disheartening to me. We've done well, I would say, with putting that information out there. We've done well to go to the Joint Select Committee, ventilate our commissions before the Parliament. We've done well to put together exam papers, to put together studies, to put together a lot of things by working together with the Emancipation Support Committee and the European Union on issues that single fathers face generally, but particularly single father-led homes. A single father-led home is a home where the father is the primary parent, where the mother is not there, either because she's left him with the children, or she may have passed away. This minority of single fathers have continuously been forgotten by state. Their children have continuously been forgotten by state. And once again, the minister, by his pronouncement, once again has forgotten all the little boys and girls who live in needy single father-led homes. This is unfair. This is discriminatory to these children. They've been discriminated against in the past through the public assistance grants, and now we're seeing a new pronouncement to further discriminate against them for one reason: the fact that they were born into a family where the father, for whatever reason or whatever circumstance life has thrown at them, is the head of their home. So we have called definitely for the minister to recant on this position and make it available for single parents. Because these children are not even concerned about the single mother and single father alone per se, The concern is for the children that live with them. A young girl or a young boy living with her single father who is needy should not be refused on the base of his gender, on the base of his race also. Those are two things we cannot allow to be perpetuated in the society at all. Right? So we're calling on the minister to do so. We've written to the minister. We've messaged the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister did respond via WhatsApp, saying that they're looking at it going forward. So I'm hoping to see change, particularly this discriminatory against these children. They've done nothing wrong. You understand? The other aspect of it is the shelter.
Yes.
Shelter for women. There are a number of shelters up in existence and operate and function for women. More could never hurt. But the thing is there any operational facility that welcomes men? That is what I want to know. Besides the very same one I think he mentioned in his budget, which is on by Riverside Plaza there, which he himself said is not satisfactory for human beings. So is there any other? I can tell him, he seems to be disconnected from the ground. I can tell him even mothers who have tried to access certain shelters, majority of them, who have young teenage sons are not allowed to enter because their sons are male. I can tell him that there are fathers who have daughters and sons as well who are not allowed to enter into shelters because they are male. They will take the daughters. The males will not be allowed to enter. To further prove this, less than 2 weeks ago, we had Mr. Kevin Preto, about a month or two ago, we had Mr. Kevin Preto who was on the promenade with his two sons because no shelter would take them. That is the reality of it. So I was looking at a suggestion coming from the good minister of a space or a shelter that would be able to accommodate the family, that was more family-oriented, that had a more familial approach. I was expecting that because we already have shelters for women that are in existence. We see there are shelters for ex-convicts, but I mean shelters for just males who have been displaced or fallen on hard times or who have been evicted from their apartments. There's no way they could go for 2 months and catch up. And that is the reality of it. I can say that the Ministry of Social Development has assisted us with assisting a couple of fathers when it comes to the rental assistance grant, where they will pay the rental for 2 or 3 months. But this is something you wait on months to get before it gets there as well. Sometimes they're evicted and on the street before that happens. So I thought that the minister would know, I thought he would be in touch with the issues on the ground to understand that what is needed in society is a shelter where mothers could enter with their male sons and a shelter where fathers could enter with their daughters and not be removed because of their genders. And we cannot be dealing with gender issue and leave men out. We cannot be exclusive and exclude men when we're dealing with gender. When we mention gender, we must be sure to ensure that males are a part of that discussion.
Are you at liberty to tell me around what percentage of the population are single or male-dominated single homes?
Well, the percentage is very small. It is the single father-led homes. If their percentage, the percentile is even 2%, I would say is plenty. So it's a small percentile. So that what makes it worse.
Yeah.
The percentile is so small, yet you would leave them out. It's not to say that they're going to be an additional burden to help us. It's not to say it's equivalent to the number of single mother-led homes. We know the challenge of fathers. We've proven that in the court. Where it has shown it is you are half likely to be on even footing, and we have statistic of the family court to prove that. For a man standing on good footing together with his wife to go to the court and be given custody. So we know there are more single mother-led homes because this is how society has propelled it. This is how the judiciary has made it. We understand that. But the thing is, and we understand also there has been a level of neglect from men as well who've walked away from the home as well. So we understand with these three things, the percentage of mother-led homes is a lot higher. So because of this fact, this minority is not going to do our revenue or anything, our yearly revenue is going to impact it in any astronomical way that they have to take women and forget men? Or is it a minority? So we're going to forget the 100 children, take 1,000 children that live in single mother homes and forget the 100 or the 50 children that live with single fathers? How unfair is that?
Yeah. I want to read to you a response from the Ministry of Social Development and Family Services, which says...
No problem.
All right, so this is an article done here by Luke Titi, which the Ministry of Social Development and Family Services says it does not discriminate against gender, geographical location, and or political affiliation. Now, this is according to a statement issued on Wednesday, as the ministry says it gives assistance to the most vulnerable in society under a number of programs, grants, and services for all eligible individuals. The ministry was responding to comments made by you, who slammed the finance minister's budget announcement that the government will establish daycare centers for children of female-headed households. The article says that you also said that men are being discriminated against when it comes to public assistance. In response, the MSDFS says, on the contrary, both genders receive help. I'm quoting here from the article where it says,
yes, of course.
Many female and male single-parent households continue to access grants and services through Public Assistance Act of Trinidad and Tobago. Such provisions are cited under Chapter 3203 of the Act, which recognizes some of the varying social and economic challenges that households may encounter. Specifically, throughout Regulations 34, B, C, and 42C, which circumstances which applicants may apply are carefully outlined. To be eligible for this and other services, however, applicants must first satisfy the statutory requirements of the ministry's standard means test. End quote. The ministry adds that at its recently concluded parenting workshop under the MSDFS's National Family Services, single fathers and mothers attended, and these sessions included knowledge sharing on topics such as teenage pregnancy, teens and sexuality, cyberbullying, child abuse, conflict resolution and anger management. Counseling and mediation services are also available. But, in a nutshell, the MSDFS is continuing to say that it makes allowances for all single-parent households through various divisions and partnerships with non-governmental faith and community-based groups. It went on to say that parents have the opportunity to improve their literacy and employability status by registering with some classes that they have there. But
all right. Can I you ready for me to respond now?
Sure.
Lovely. It is clear that the person who did the article is in no way affiliated so closely with the ministry. I am clearly more affiliated than they are, because they clearly don't know what took place or takes place in that ministry. I will refer the writer of that or the person who responded to me to go to our joint select committee where the MSDP director would have admitted of the culture, where the minister at the National Family Policy launch in Mokoya would have admitted to the culture, and they are very right. I was the one that brought to their attention that the legislation did not specify that a man should not be granted because he was deemed the head of the household. Ask them how they found that out. I was the one who brought it to their attention. And based on that, they admitted at the Joint Select Committee, go to the Parliament, check the Hansard, and hear what the director said on that day. Go to footage, because we have the footage of the minister saying that they did do that. That they did interpret the law as though if the man was the male of the household, he could not apply for public assistance. So if he could not even apply for public assistance, then how could you even know if he qualified for the means test? Because he was turned away before application. So that is a null and void point. where they make about you must apply and you must pass in means test. They cannot tell me about the means test because I've sent multiple people to social welfare about the means test. If they ask the directors and they ask the employees, they would know how closely we work with the Ministry of Social Development. So, as I am saying, the only thing they said there, and that release was a bit upsetting. You know why? No one called out the Minister of Social Development. No one called her out. What we said, we were speaking about the Minister of Finance. We were saying what had happened, as I just said before, in the past with those children being left out and not being able to apply for public assistance then must never happen again. We must not leave them out again.
Yeah.
So if they had listened carefully to what I said, they would not have realized and then reacted this knee-jerk reaction to now have them further embarrassed. Because there is no way they could never say, because it is recorded in the Hansard, it is recorded on camera, that they admitted that the legislation was always unbiased. But the interpretation of the legislation is what stopped men from being allowed to apply. And the justification about qualification with the means test is null and void. It's null and void because men in those days, which was not too long ago, which was just a year and a half, if so much. It was just last year. The National Family Policy came out, was being pioneered. So men were not allowed to apply, and I have living testimony of these men that I could present. I presented some of the men at the JSC who were turned away because they were male. Have they allowed now for the last year for men to start applying? Yes, they have now allowed after we spoke about it. We didn't say they have not allowed men to apply, and a lot of men have applied and still haven't been granted since. But the truth and the fact exists that very shortly ago, as recent as 2017, coming to 2018, men will refuse public assistance for the last 20 or 30 years. I made no error in any statement I made. They made an error to come out and speak about this as if it wasn't happening, knowing that I have full evidence of their admission that this took place from a government institution when there was legislation that did not support their action, which is grounds enough for them to be sued for turning away some of these men, who I'm pretty sure if they were allowed to apply, may have been granted public assistance. So they should be very careful how they put that information out there, because they will lead the ministry into further embarrassment.
Tell me something. Is it now that the results from these means tests were just, left by the wayside, that nobody really adhered to it? Because now you're saying that the means test was done, but nothing was really implemented after that. So that was it. The means test was done, and that's it.
Right. What I'm saying is that prior to the last year or so, after we highlighted the issue of men not being allowed to apply, you see, if they're not allowed to apply, then they will never even get tried on the means test to know if they're going to qualify. They were turned away from the jump. You are male. Some men were told these hurtful things. A man, I continue to talk about Mr. Marlon Lewis from Bagatelle, who is a constituent of the Prime Minister, whose wife died, left him with 7 children, and she died of cancer, who was not allowed. I can tell you about Mr. Bostic. I can tell you about Mr. Thomas. I can tell you about Mr. Jonathan Price. I could tell you about Mr. Kevin Pritz. I could give you all the names of men who have gone, and Mr. Gibbs as well, Mark Anthony Gibbs. So I could tell you about all these men who would have gone to MSDP and have been turned away. They were turned away because they were male at a point in time. It was only after our lobby and I sat in the office with one of their heads. We went through the legislation together. The minister may not know this, so they should tread carefully. I don't say anything out of my mouth without evidence. They should be very careful when dealing with me. So, as I said, when we looked at the legislation, there was nothing that said that a man being a man does not enable him to apply, that exempts him from being able to apply.
Yeah.
And that was the ministry's position based on the interpretation that or culture, and they admitted even in the GSC that they would have to start reculturing the way that they think in the ministry. They would have to put on exercises, go to the JSC and check, go to the JSC of early 2018 and get the final report on it, and you will see what they said. Go to the Hansard, you would see what the ministry said. It's not my words. So, as I said, they were not even allowed to do the means test, not even allowed to participate in that section. And if the father could not participate in that section, it means that his hungry children will not, it didn't exclude the father or exempt or tell the father he couldn't do it. You know. You were telling the children that because they lived with a man as the sole parent, they were not eligible to be taken, to be assisted. That is what Trinidad and Tobago told those children of those families. Even if it's 50 of them, even if it's 100 of them, we told them that for the last 30 years or so. How many of them may have become drug addicts? How many of them may have become criminals? How many of them may have come? It is also because, not solely to blame the state, but the state may have been able to help their scenario.
Yeah.
But they were not allowed. Their father, who was the key person, the key applicant in the home, was not allowed to apply. And what the ministry should do is take a more mature approach and apologize and say, we made mistakes in the past, and going forward, we will not allow them to continue. And they should lend their voices. They should lend their voices. I send this to the minister herself. She should lend her voice and the PS and whoever up on top to our call to not allow this to happen to this section of children again, because they witnessed it, they admitted it, they understood. Well, I thought they understood the error that they made before. But to send that release out like that and to try to mask the mistakes they made in the past is as if you're telling me that here we're going on, we were clean and above board all the time. This has nothing to do with us. And that is a bad position to take.
Do you think that perhaps a revision of the Public Assistance Act to state clearly, the definitions and what is required and who can qualify and who can't qualify, do you think something like that could probably help incorporate and not turn away men from getting their rightful assistance from the government?
And that's a brilliant question, Christy, because one would think for such a mistake or travesty to have taken place, you would believe that the legislation was very wide, open-ended, or very, or was very exclusive in any particular way, or rather than open-ended. Was very exclusive, and then they had no. The thing is, the way the law is written, the way the legislation is written, it does not exclude. It says parent. It doesn't say single mother. So I don't see any issue with the legislation at all. The issue was whoever was in charge of Ministry of Social Development at that point and made that more or less ministry policy, even if it wasn't written, but created that whole atmosphere and environment of man is the head of the home, men don't need help. That is the person responsible for what happened years after. And I am pretty sure you may not have even seen a policy saying that men or fathers can't get help. It just was a practice that they started years ago, and they kept it up. And that is why it was so important for me to respond to the very words said by the minister. Because sometimes just those words alone, me not having him correct it may mean that even later down the road, if they say, boy, we're going to include fathers, and that's writing fathers, because of his pronouncement in the budget, on television, for the nation to hear, sometime you may see later down the road another unwritten policy that has now governed, that is to now govern this daycare. And they say, Mr. Fields, we never hear the minister say anything about single father, Even though you tell me they say they include all the after. We heard female-led houses only. This is why it is important for the minister to correct that. We can't have pride and feel we're too big to do certain things. These little children we're talking about, and we should do it on their behalf. They will appreciate it. These are the children that might save our generation in time to come.
How are these single fathers dealing with this news?
I mean, they were very upset, very disheartened. You're talking about, if you think about it, you feel like you're the bastard child all the time. That is how you feel. You feel like you're in a society that has said, men, step up. And I can tell you, from a single father perspective, I I share parenting. The mother of my children, she's very, very, very involved. These guys have it harder than me. They have it harder than me. They have no support. Sometimes they have no social life too. So at the end of the day, I understand their perspective. And if you can say you understand the perspective of a single mother, the only reason she becomes a single mother is because of that child she's taking care of. How can you not understand the perspective of a single father-led home if it is the very same child that makes him a father as well? It is a nonsensical approach, and it comes across either as if we don't care about this percentage of children, or we just said something to look good. One of the two.
Now, you've raised an important point earlier on where you said that, traditionally it was taught that, men have a lot of responsibility falls on them. But, and we society always has the notion that men don't need help, men don't need this, men don't need that. But being as it is, men and women have the same needs when it comes down to a child. You need to provide certain things for a child. Is it now that we need to start changing the way, or not just you and I, but those in authority should start changing the way they think about parenting and their views on parenting, and not just see it as, okay, this is a man, this is a woman. We should start seeing this as the child is the bigger picture here.
Exactly. I mean, society, and the thing is this, society has decided to change its way of thinking and what it wants to. And that's what's upsetting to me. We understand as a society and appreciate as a society that a woman should not be domesticated if she doesn't want to. That a woman is capable and intelligent enough to come first in SCA, to get the highest marks, to become an astronaut, to do some of the greatest things, and women have done magnificently well. So then why is our society not willing to comprehend that there is also that aspect, or there are many men now whose perspectives have changed on fatherhood? Many men who were the boys without fathers, who lived with single mothers and understand the significance of fatherhood because they have no fathers. Why isn't society, why aren't we seeing ads that generate positivity about fatherhood? Why aren't we hearing our leaders be inclusive of men? Why aren't our leaders, or why are we as a society now become honest to say that there are men that struggle, there are men that need financial assistance, there are men who are taking care of their homes and need help? Why aren't we putting information and putting ads out there showing men homeless, trying to find somewhere so that the public and that whole social consciousness will be awakened in our society, that we say, hey, men need help too and it's okay, so that a man feels comfortable to ask for help and he doesn't feel like a sissy or a weak man or a waste of time because he needs help. Why aren't we going that direction? It is because there are certain people who are enjoying how society sees certain things, and until we, the right thinking and smart people, counteract that, we will always have this challenge.
Going forward, though, what are some recommendations you can suggest to us to make fathers feel a little more inclusive in society, in the authorities, and not make them feel like, well, they're in this by themselves?
2 words. Consider them. That is it. Consider them. Just as you sat and you planned and you said, hey, we will do this for female-led households, sit and think about the child hungry in the father house whose mother has died or whose mother has left. That is a common reality these days, right? It's no longer the older days. Think of the man who, you see, every day, the vagrant, who 90% of the time is a man walking, the mentally deranged man walking down, sometimes he's very sane, just have nowhere to live, walking on the promenade, where does be shying away from? Or think about the men like Mr. Preto, who landed on the promenade, or the men like Mr. McCain, who landed in the hospital because they had nowhere else to carry their children, no shelters would accept them. Yeah. That is the reality of it. Where all we need to do is to consider them. And had they been considered in the mind of the minister, I am certain he would have had a more balanced gender report when it comes to the budget.
Now, I know you indicated your intentions to either write to the minister or you've done that already.
We've written. We've written to the minister already.
And any
waiting
responses?
to hear what he would say. I didn't get any response from him, but what I did, we got a response via, we messaged the Prime Minister, and he did respond to us, saying that they're looking at it going forward here. So, I mean, I guess they would have, I don't know if they received the letter as yet or what is the order.
Okay.
But this is something that we're not going to peg back on. And at the end of the day, we're going to definitely see, because it is important what is recorded in that Hansard. Because this is what our future generations will look back on.
Yeah.
To consider the mind of our parliament at this point in time and how they thought. And it will be good not to be scoffed and laughed at that point in time. So it will be very good for the minister to rethink his position, I believe.
Okay. Now, outside of this, I want to get your thoughts on the wage increase, the proposed wage increase by the finance minister from $15 to $17.50. Do you think this is a good move? And how can it benefit single fathers or the nation as a whole?
I mean, economically, I think anybody, whether single father or whether parent, if they're allowed to earn a greater income to alleviate their bills, they're grateful. So I wouldn't say particularly if it's good or if it's bad. I think anything that any income raise, I think people welcome that, they appreciate it. Do I think it's a sweetener or not sweetener as amount of people talking? I don't really think so, because the way that we are embedded or cultured in Trinidad and Tobago, we are what we are until we die. Sad to say. As a PNM forever till I die, as a UNT forever till I die, as a Christian forever till I die, I'm a whatever until forever what I die. So I don't think that is going to have any meaningful impact on anybody saying I'm going to vote for you now because they raised by $2 or whatever. But I mean, from the fathers and mothers and family and anybody, just the single person's perspective, I'm sure they're going to be very pleased. That extra $2 an hour, that extra $2 if it come up to $24 a day or whatever, is going to be beneficial or fill some gap for them. So praise be to God, I could say.
All right. And with regards to the budget entirely, what are some other concerns you may have, or perhaps any compliments to the minister?
Well, as I made mention, in my single father's perspective, I would say I like the issue of, at least the promise to have more educational facilities up and running. There are a number of them in the communities that are wasting away. I hope he targeted those and are going to have those up and running as soon as possible. I looked also at the element of housing, because these are what families look for. Education for the family, something to leave for the children when they go on. So housing is important. I saw the suggestion also of the kind of self-help. We give you a 300,000 loan, and I don't know if they're giving them the land to build on the property. Yeah. That's another way to possibly teach people not to be solely dependent on government, but to pull half your weight as well. So I think that was kind of sensible as well. As I said, I didn't look into the GDP and the revenue and see what is feasible and what is not feasible, but I looked at the suggestions and the benefits of what the families were going to inherit from this budget. So that's basically it. My main issue was with gender and his definition of gender and his exclusion of males in every form of his demonstration of what he was going to do for gender. And that was my main pet peeve, and it was something that I had to mention.
All right, Mr. Fields, before we wrap things up, just your closing comments.
I don't believe any government is perfect. We have challenges with all, no matter which side I take, and I take no sides. But I think it's important for people, the citizenry, to understand their value, to understand their worth, and to understand and to accept no less than what you believe you're worth. That is the reality of it. Not because it's my government do it, it's good. Not because it's not my government do it, it's bad. It's time for us as the civilians to have more sense than being political lab rats. Just making decisions based on those above us. Think for yourself, monitor things for yourself, make decisions for yourself. That is critical for the life of any human being.
All right, Mr. Fields, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you so much for having me.
And good luck in continuing to fight there. That, of course, would have been the leader of the head rather, the president of the Single Fathers Association of Trinidad and Tobago, expressing disappointment in the measure outlined by the government by Minister of Finance, Colm Imbert, where he said daycares would be provided to all single-led family households, to children under 3, of course, excluding meals, and something the Mr. Fields, of course, just now took issue with, expressing his disappointment there. You would have seen, in addition to the daycares, the state plans to introduce shelters for homeless women facilitated by the Housing Development Corporation with support from the business community. Again, yet another point excluding meals from society. To that end, you would have heard Mr. Fields saying that there are many single fathers, who are the head of homes in Trinidad and Tobago. And that's it from all of us here at PSA TV. We're going to toss to news and end of for today. I am your host, Christy Callising. Stay with us. News is up next. Thank you for joining us today.